My child, pause here for a moment, because what you are about to hear was not meant to pass you by unnoticed. Do not scroll away as though this is another ordinary message. Something has shifted in the unseen, and a confession connected to your heart has already changed the atmosphere around the person you have been thinking about. Words were spoken. A room became silent. Faces turned toward one another in disbelief. And the one your soul has recognized, even through distance, confusion, and unanswered questions, finally said something about marriage that no one present was prepared to hear. You may not know where it happened. You may not know who was listening. You may not know what led them to that moment. But your spirit has been sensing that something is different. That strange pressure in your chest, that sudden memory arriving without warning, that feeling that someone is thinking deeply about you when the world becomes quiet, none of it has felt accidental. You have tried to dismiss it. You have told yourself not to read too much into the silence. You have attempted to be strong, rational, and emotionally guarded. Yet beneath all of that strength, a question has remained: what are they truly planning? Stay with this message, because the answer begins with a conversation that was never supposed to become so honest. Your soulmate had been carrying a truth they could no longer hide. For a long time, they tried to manage it privately. They told themselves that love could be delayed. They convinced themselves that timing mattered more than emotion. They allowed other voices to influence their decisions. Voices that spoke of convenience, expectations, appearances, and what seemed sensible from the outside. But every time they imagined building a future without you, something inside them resisted. They could smile in front of others. They could answer questions casually. They could pretend that everything was under control. But when they were alone, the truth became louder. They saw your face in moments when they were supposed to be focused on something else. They remembered the way your presence made them feel understood without needing to explain everything. They recalled details you may have forgotten, something you said, the expression in your eyes, a moment when you showed kindness while carrying pain of your own. Those memories did not fade. They deepened. And then came the question that opened everything. Someone close to them asked, when you think about marriage, who do you truly see beside you? The question sounded simple. It may even have been asked playfully. But your soulmate did not laugh. They did not give the easy answer everyone expected. Their expression changed. The room noticed. What had begun as an ordinary conversation suddenly became something far more serious. There was a pause. A long one. Your soulmate looked down, as though they were searching for words strong enough to hold everything they had been hiding. Their hands became still. Their breathing changed. And in that silence, the people around them began to understand that the answer was not going to be casual. My child, this is where the confession began. They admitted that they had already imagined marriage. Not marriage as a distant idea. Not marriage with an unknown person whose face had not yet appeared. They had imagined a specific life, a specific home, a specific presence beside them. They had imagined waking up next to someone who brought peace rather than performance. They had imagined building something with a person who had seen their flaws and still awakened tenderness in them. Then they spoke of you. Not vaguely. Not indirectly. They said enough for everyone in that room to know exactly who they meant. The people listening became speechless because some of them believed your soulmate had moved on. Some assumed the distance between you had erased the connection. Others thought pride had won. A few may have even encouraged them to choose a path that looked easier, faster, or more acceptable. But in one unguarded moment, your soulmate revealed that the future in their hearts still had your presence inside it. They confessed that when marriage is mentioned, your name is the one that rises within them. And that was not all. Do not skip now, because the next part of their confession carried more weight than the first. Your soulmate admitted that they had tried to picture themselves committing to someone else. They tried to imagine standing before family, making promises, wearing a smile, and beginning a life that looked beautiful from the outside. But every version of that future felt incomplete. Something essential was missing. The more they attempted to force the image, the more clearly they saw you. They said they could not make a lifelong promise while their heart was still telling the truth about someone else. The room became even quieter. One person looked away. Another shifted uncomfortably. Someone who had previously spoken against the connection could no longer find the words to respond. Your soulmate was no longer speaking with hesitation. Once the truth began to pour out, it became impossible to stop. They admitted that losing you had not made their feelings disappear. It had only taught them how deeply those feelings had taken root. They spoke about regret. They spoke about fear. They spoke about the moments they wanted to reach out but stopped themselves. They spoke about how many times they opened a message and closed it again, how many times they imagined your response, how often they wondered whether you would still listen if they finally came with honesty instead of confusion. My child, the confession left people speechless because it was not the confession of someone casually remembering a past connection. It was the confession of a soul realizing that a future decision could no longer be separated from the person they truly loved. You must understand something deeper. Your soulmate has been surrounded by pressure. Some of that pressure came from family. Some came from time. Some came from watching others move forward while they felt emotionally suspended. There were moments when they wondered whether they should simply choose what was available rather than wait for what felt real. But every shortcut demanded that they betray something inside themselves. They could not do it. Not anymore. Something within them has reached a breaking point, not a fearful breaking point, but a moment of awakening. They have become tired of pretending that their heart is undecided. They are tired of allowing silence to tell a story that is not true. They are tired of watching people assume they do not care when, in reality, they have cared so deeply that it frightened them. You saw their distance and believed it meant indifference. But their distance was often the place where their inner conflict became strongest. They were not only afraid of losing you. They were afraid of reaching you and discovering they had waited too long. They were afraid that your healing had carried you beyond them. They were afraid that someone else might now be standing where they once imagined themselves. And during that confession, this fear surfaced. They asked the room a question no one expected: what if the person I want no longer believes me? That question changed the energy completely. Because behind it was the truth that your soulmate does not only want marriage. They are beginning to understand that they may have to earn back trust, rebuild safety, and face the consequences of every moment when they allowed uncertainty to speak louder than love. They know words alone will not be enough. They know that saying your name in a private room is not the same as standing before you with courage. They know that imagining a future with you means nothing unless they become capable of protecting that future from the same confusion that once threatened it. This is why something is changing within them now. They are not merely longing. They are preparing. There is a difference. Longing stays hidden and repeats the same memories. Preparation begins to make decisions. Longing whispers, "I miss them." Preparation asks, "What must I change before I return?" Longing waits for a miracle. Preparation becomes willing to walk through discomfort to meet the miracle halfway. Your soulmate has begun to ask difficult questions about themselves. Why did they hesitate? Why did they allow the opinions of others to become louder than their own heart? Why did they expect you to understand feelings they never clearly expressed? Why did they retreat at the moments when you needed certainty? These questions have not been easy for them. Yet they are necessary, because the future they confess to wanting cannot be built by the version of them that avoided truth. It requires a more honest version. A steadier version. A version willing to speak before circumstances make the choice for them. My beloved child, you have also been changing in ways they do not fully understand yet. You have endured nights when you wondered whether the connection was real or whether you had created hope from fragments. You have questioned your intuition. You have tried to silence your heart because listening to it sometimes hurt too much. There were moments when you felt forgotten. There were moments when you felt foolish for caring. There were moments when you wished you could become indifferent simply to protect yourself. But the pain was not proof that you were weak. It revealed how deeply you desired something honest, mutual, and safe. You were not asking for perfection. You were asking for clarity. You were asking for someone to stop hiding behind mixed signals and meet you where truth lives. That desire has been heard. Yet hear this carefully. The confession does not mean you must abandon wisdom. It does not mean you must accept words without evidence. It does not mean you should return to any cycle that wounded you simply because the person now feels afraid of losing you. The divine lesson in this moment is not to surrender your boundaries. It is to recognize that truth is finally confronting the person who avoided it. Your soulmate's confession has forced everyone around them to reconsider what they thought they knew. One person in that room had believed they could persuade your soulmate toward another path. They had spoken about practical matches, family approval, social expectations, and the safety of choosing someone uncomplicated. They assumed your connection was merely emotional history. But when your soulmate spoke, that person saw something they had not seen before. Conviction. Not impulsiveness. Not fantasy. Conviction. Your soulmate said that a marriage without emotional truth would become a beautiful prison. They said they did not want to stand beside one person while secretly mourning another. They said they would rather face difficult conversations now than create a lifetime built on dishonesty. No one interrupted. Because even those who disagreed could feel that this was not a passing mood. Then your soulmate revealed a detail that made the room even more stunned. They had kept something connected to you. It may have been a message, a photograph, a small object, a saved note, a recording, or a memory they had written down because they were afraid time would blur it. Whatever form it took, they admitted that they returned to it more often than anyone knew. Not because they wanted to live in the past. Because it reminded them of the person they were when they allowed themselves to be real with you. They said you had seen a side of them that others rarely reached. You saw the vulnerability beneath the confidence. You saw the exhaustion beneath the strength. You sensed when they were pretending to be fine. You did not only make them feel desired. You made them feel recognized. And when they imagined marriage, that recognition mattered more than appearance, status, or convenience. Someone asked them, "Are you saying you would still choose this person after everything?" Your soulmate did not answer immediately. They looked toward the window, or perhaps toward the floor, as if the weight of every past mistake had gathered in that moment. Their eyes became emotional. The silence returned. Then they said, "I never stopped choosing them in my heart. I only failed to show it." My child, those words struck the room like thunder without sound. Because everyone understood the difference. Your soulmate was not claiming innocence. They were not pretending they had handled everything correctly. They were admitting that their heart had remained connected while their actions created confusion. That honesty exposed them. It stripped away every excuse. And still, the most shocking confession had not yet been spoken. Something huge is waiting within this story, so remain here. After admitting they still saw you in their future, your soulmate began to describe what they would do if given one real opportunity to speak with you. They said they would no longer hide behind vague language. They would not come merely to ask whether you missed them. They would not test your feelings or offer another half-promise. They said they would tell you exactly what they wanted. They would admit where they failed. They would listen to your pain without becoming defensive. They would accept that forgiveness cannot be demanded. And then, in front of everyone, they said they were no longer interested in temporary reconnection. They wanted to speak about permanence. The room did not know how to react. Some were moved. Some were shocked. Some were concerned because they understood that a confession this serious could lead to immediate action. And one person asked the question everyone else had been thinking, "Does the person you love know any of this?" Your soulmate's face changed again. They said, "Not yet." Those two words revealed how close this moment truly is. Not yet. Not never. Not impossible. Not forgotten. Not yet. There is a conversation approaching. Its exact form may not be what you expect. It may begin softly. It may arrive through a simple message that does not immediately reveal its full purpose. It may come through someone who mentions their name. It may appear after a period of unusual silence. But beneath the surface, your soulmate is carrying words that have become too heavy to keep hidden. Still, there is one final barrier. Pride. Pride has protected them from rejection, but it has also kept them separated from truth. Pride told them to wait for you to make the first move. Pride told them that if the connection were meant to return, you would somehow sense everything without needing an explanation. Pride told them to remain silent rather than risk hearing that you had changed. But now the fear of never speaking has become greater than the fear of being rejected. This is the turning point. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that silence is also a decision. Every day they do not speak is a day that may carry you farther into a life where they no longer have a place. Every moment they delay gives someone else the opportunity to offer you the certainty they withheld. That thought has shaken them. They imagined you standing beside someone else, smiling with the peace you once wanted from them. They imagined hearing that you had chosen a new path. They imagined becoming the person who waited until it was too late. And in that imagined future, they felt a grief so real that it forced them to confront the present. They do not want to become your almost. They do not want to be remembered as the person who loved you privately but lacked the courage to build with you openly. They do not want to watch another soul receive the version of you they once prayed to know. So during that confession, your soulmate made a statement that caused one person in the room to gasp. They said, "If I speak to them again, it will be because I am ready to ask for a real future." The words did not sound rehearsed. They sounded decided. And yet, my child, before you allow your heart to race too far ahead, understand that this message is also about your preparation. You must not meet a returning truth as the same person who once abandoned themselves to keep a connection alive. You have learned too much. You have grown through too many silent battles. You have begun to understand that love should not require you to beg for basic clarity. You know now that spiritual connection and emotional responsibility must walk together. A bond may feel destined, but destiny never asks you to accept disrespect as proof of devotion. If your soulmate comes forward, they must meet your healed standards, not merely your old longing. This is why your journey has felt slow. You thought the delay was punishment. But some delays expose what emotion alone cannot reveal. They show whether someone truly transforms or simply misses the comfort of your presence. They reveal whether a person wants access to you or partnership with you. They separate temporary loneliness from lasting commitment. Your soulmate's confession has opened the door, but their next action will reveal the depth of what they said. And heaven is drawing your attention not so you will chase them, but so you will remain centered when the truth arrives. Do not run ahead of what has not yet been demonstrated. Do not create the entire future from one sign. Do not lower your standards because your heart recognizes their energy. Remain open, but remain wise. Remain soft, but remain anchored. Because the version of you they remember is not the full version of who you have become. You have become stronger in the silence. You have learned how to sit with unanswered questions without allowing them to destroy your identity. You have discovered that your value does not decrease because someone failed to express what you meant to them. You have survived emotional uncertainty and emerged with a deeper desire for peace. Your soulmate may soon approach expecting to meet the person who once waited endlessly. But they will encounter someone different. Someone loving, yet discerning. Someone emotionally deep, yet no longer willing to live on promises. Someone who can forgive, but who will not pretend the past did not matter. This transformation is part of why their confession became so intense. On some level, they sense that your energy is no longer standing still. They feel that the door they assumed would remain open forever may now require courage, honesty, and consistency to approach. They know they cannot return casually. They know a simple, "I miss you," will not answer the questions their silence created. They know they must explain why marriage entered their thoughts, why your name remained there, and what they are actually prepared to do differently. And there is one more hidden detail from that room. After the confession, someone pulled your soulmate aside. This person had remained quiet during the conversation. They listened carefully. They observed every change in your soulmate's expression. They saw the truth beneath the words. When the others began to leave, this person asked your soulmate a question in private. Are you prepared for the answer they may give you? Your soulmate became still. Because until that moment, they had focused on their own confession. Their regret. Their desire. Their future. But that question forced them to think about you, not as a dream waiting in the same place, but as a human heart that may have been deeply affected by their absence. They began to realize that you may not immediately respond with relief. You may respond with caution. You may need time. You may ask questions they cannot avoid. You may tell them things they are not prepared to hear. You may reveal that while they were debating their feelings, you were learning how to live without their certainty. The thought humbled them. And instead of stepping back, your soulmate said something that surprised the person beside them. They said, "Then I will listen. Even if it hurts." That sentence matters. Because it shows that the confession is beginning to move beyond desire and toward accountability. They are starting to understand that loving you means making room for your truth, not only presenting their own. Still, there is a secret they did not reveal to the entire room. A decision had already begun forming before the conversation ever started. Your soulmate had been considering a specific step. They had looked at something. Planned something. Written something. Perhaps even spoken to someone who could help them reach you. They had not yet completed the action, but they were closer than anyone realized. The marriage confession was not the beginning of the desire. It was the moment the hidden plan escaped into the open. This is why the people around them were left speechless. They realized your soulmate was not merely imagining a wedding someday. They had been thinking about how to find their way back to you. They had been wondering what words could reopen a door without disrespecting the pain behind it. They had been considering whether to come alone or involve someone trusted. They had been thinking about a place connected to your memories. They had even imagined the first expression on your face when you realized why they had returned. But one question continued to haunt them: would you believe them? My child, your answer cannot be decided in advance. It must be shaped by truth when truth stands before you. This message is not telling you to surrender control of your life to a romantic promise. It is reminding you that what seemed unspoken may be moving toward revelation. You do not need to force anything. You do not need to search for proof in every hour. You do not need to contact them out of fear that the moment will disappear. What is honest must learn to walk toward you. What is mature must learn to communicate. What is truly prepared for commitment must become visible through action. And while this unfolds, protect your peace. There may be emotional waves. You may remember old moments. You may feel hope rise and then question it. You may sense movement before you see it. But do not allow anticipation to pull you away from the life you are building. Your soulmate's awakening is their responsibility. Your alignment is yours. Something extraordinary is approaching, but its purpose is not merely to give you a dramatic reunion. Its purpose is to reveal whether two people who once felt deeply can now meet with honesty, maturity, and courage. The old connection was powerful. The new connection, if it is to exist, must be stable. The old connection carried emotion. The new connection must carry responsibility. The old connection survived through intuition and longing. The new connection must survive through conversation, choices, and truth. This is the threshold both of you are approaching. And now I must tell you what happened moments after your soulmate's confession ended. The room had almost emptied. The voices had lowered. The emotional intensity appeared to be settling. Your soulmate stood alone for a moment, staring at the phone in their hand. Your name was there. Perhaps in an old conversation. Perhaps in a search bar. Perhaps saved under a name they had never changed. Their thumb hovered over the screen. Their heart was pounding because the confession had removed their last excuse. Everyone now knew. The truth had been spoken aloud. They could no longer pretend the future they wanted was unclear. They opened the place where your words once lived. They scrolled slowly. They stopped at one message. A message from you that they had read many times before, but never fully understood until that night. It was something you had said when you were tired of uncertainty. Something honest. Something that had carried both love and pain. At the time, they may have responded poorly, remained silent, or misunderstood the depth behind it. But now the meaning struck them differently. Their eyes filled with tears. Because they realized you had not been asking them for perfection. You had been asking them to choose honesty before fear destroyed what honesty could have saved. Your soulmate whispered your name. Then they began typing. The message was longer than anything they had sent you before. It contained the confession no one outside that room had heard. It contained an apology. It contained a question about the future. It contained words connected to marriage. They typed. They stopped. They erased one sentence. They rewrote it. They read the entire message again. Then, just as their finger moved toward the button that could send everything into your world, a new notification appeared on their screen. It was from someone they never expected to hear from. And what that person revealed about you made your soulmate freeze before sending the confession.